This is section 8.1. It's multiples of a unit fraction. So if we remember what a unit fraction is, it's when you have a whole amount, a unit fraction is 1 out of the whole amount. So it would be 1/8 in this case. So we're going to be using this. The big idea or the big question that's going to be asked over and over is we want to write the fraction as a product of a whole number and a unit fraction. So what does that mean? So product, what is the word product telling us that we're going to be doing? We're going to be multiplying. A whole number, we know that, it's a whole number. And a unit fraction is always going to have a 1 in the numerator, and then whatever the denominator size piece is, that's the denominator. So in this case, the unit fraction is 1/8. So if we go to our word problem, a huge word problem might feel overwhelming, but if you read it a few times, it's not so bad. So Megan's cake was cut into 8 equal-sized pieces. That's very easy to visualize. You have a cake and you cut it into 8 equal-sized parts. She put one piece aside for later, so she took away one piece, and now she has 7/8 of it that she has left. So 7 out of the 8 pieces are left. Just going through it line by line, you can kind of break it apart, but you should really read it once the whole way through and then go back and break it apart. So she had 7/8 of the cake left. She put each of those leftover pieces on a different plate, and we want to know how many plates did she use and what part of the cake was on each of those plates. So then we go back. So what do we have? We have a cake that's cut into 8 pieces. So what I would do is, or what you can visualize is you have a whole amount and you cut it into 8 pieces. So if I have 8 pieces, what is the size of each part? It's an 1/8 sized part. So that should be really easy by now, especially from last chapter, knowing what the denominator is telling you. There are 8 pieces of cake. She took one of those and she put it aside for later. So now we have 7 pieces of cake. And we want to put each of these on a different plate. So I will represent that by saying, well, there's a plate, there's a plate, there's a plate. So the way that we would say that is we would have 7/8 is equal to 7 1/8 sized pieces. That's what this means. An 8 sized piece is the size of the part, and I have 7 of them. Okay, what's the next step though? How do I use this in my answer? So if I want to use the product, that means I have to multiply something. What would I be multiplying? How do I multiply something by a unit fraction? Well, what's the unit fraction? 1/8. Which whole number would I need to multiply it by to get to 7/8? Well, how many of them are there here? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if I did this, does that work? If I said 7 times 1/8, is that going to be 7/8? Yeah, that's how it's going to look. So going back again here, write 7/8 as a product. So we have our multiplication, a product of a whole number, that's a whole number, and a unit fraction. And here's our unit fraction. So all of this is just to visualize, all right, I'm cutting something up into pieces, I'm splitting them into different parts into their unit fraction. That means a 1 out of the denominator. And I want to know how many of those I have. I have 7 of them. So 7 times 1/8 will be my answer. The second part is, what part of the cake was on each plate? Well, 1/8 of the cake is on each plate. So that's really easy to do when you have the fraction strips and you can just throw them into place and you can see that. How do you do that if you just don't have fraction strips and you need to do the same process? If I want to write 6/7 as a product of a whole number and a unit fraction, first I want to see, well, what is the unit fraction? So this is a stepping block. You'll do this step until you don't need it anymore. So 6/7 means I have 1/7 plus 1/7 plus 1/7. I have that 6 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and and 6. How would I write this as a product of a whole number and a unit fraction? Well, how many times do I have it? I have it 6 times, so 6 is my whole number, times, what's my unit fraction? 1/7. So that is going to equal 6/7. How about this one? If I had 52/86, I don't want to write the unit fraction 1/86. I don't want to write that over and over and over again. So what I think of first is, well, this is like saying, like if you go back to our other numbers, like if you get stuck, go backwards until you get to a point you understand and then move forward. But this would be like saying, all right, what's my unit fraction? My unit fraction is 1/86. And the numerator is telling us how many times we have that. So it would be 52 is our whole number times 1/86. So again, for this lesson, all of it is the same format, at least for this first part of it. The directions are to write the fraction as a product of a whole number and its unit fraction. So going back to check it again, 1/86. This would mean that I write 1/86 plus 1/86 plus 1/86 over and over and over again. How many times would I be doing that? I would be doing that until my numerator added up to 52. So that's how we know that our 52 is our whole number. So hopefully this should be really easy right now. If it's not, try one more. And if it's still not easy, go backwards and just work with writing out the unit fraction. Okay, so 12/25. Always start with the same thing. We have a whole number times the unit fraction. The unit fraction is just 1 for sure. Like your unit fraction is always going to be 1 part out of the whole thing. And the denominator is going to stay the same. So our denominator is 25. So our unit fraction is 1 piece out of it. So 1/25. How many of those will we have? We're going to have 12 of them. So it will be 12 times 1/25. And that will give us 12/25. We know that the unit fraction is 1, so I know I'm going to have a 1. I know I'm going to be multiplying it by a whole number. What is the size of the part? It's a 12th sized part, so my unit fraction is 1/12. How many times am I going to multiply 1/12? I'm going to have 1/12 plus 1/12 plus 1/12. How many times? 8 times. So my whole number is 8 times 1/12. And you will see this pattern really quickly. Like you'll know this automatically. If I do 9/14 and I want to do it the same way, find the product of a whole number and a unit fraction. My whole number is going to be 9 and my unit fraction is 1/14. Okay, so pretty soon you cut out all of the modeling, but to know what that is, like what you're really in your head or on paper you're seeing, that I'm saying I have 1/14 9 times, and that's going to give me 9/14. So the more time you take at the beginning of a chapter to really like let the foundation sink in, the easier time you'll have to build on it. So always go for the shortcuts, go for all of the quick patterns that you see, but know what the underlying like meaning of it is, so you have a really strong foundation with fractions, because fractions can get pretty complicated.